All right, so this is a suggestion via a donation. The name of the video is why hurricanes are Earth's most powerful storms. Guys, there are many reasons hurricanes are absolutely terrible, bro. Tropical storms, tropical cyclones, I think that's what scientists call them overall, right? They're obviously called different things around the world, but they're the same exact thing. They all form around the equator, guys. They are absolutely crazy to encounter. If you've ever been into one, you understand, right? So for the most part, hurricanes, this is how they're formed. Let's go ahead and define it before we even jump into the video. So hurricanes are basically formed by a thin layer of air. I guess it doesn't have to really be thin, but a layer of air, right? That's being warmed up by the sun warming up the water, let's say, and the water itself is warming up the sun. Okay, not the sun, the air that's above the water, right? And cold air from the clouds in the sky is coming down. They're coming down, and the warm air is rising, obviously. So it creates a process kind of similar to this here. And the faster it gets, let's say that gets to 39 miles an hour, it's now going to be forecasted as a tropical storm. Okay, now from 39 miles an hour all the way up to about 74 miles an hour, it'll always be considered a tropical storm. Nothing to worry about, because hey, listen, the difference between 74 miles an hour and 75 isn't that much. It's not that much, but it's still going to do damage. But either way, so at 75 miles an hour is when the hurricane kind of becomes a hurricane officially, right? As it's doing this here, right? And it's spinning and spinning, and what's happening is up in the clouds is starting to spiral. Okay. Then that obviously starts moving, unfortunately, towards land occasionally. And sometimes they die out in the, in the ocean, kind of like Jackson is doing right now, right? I'm pretty sure probably Bermuda is being affected by it, but other than Bermuda, it's not really going to do much more than just that. Not dismissing the 65,000 people who live there, obviously, but wow. Okay. Hurricanes absolutely are crazy. They go up to almost 200 miles an hour. They move really slow. Okay. So even though they're spinning, they're still moving really slow. It's kind of the reason why, another reason why when they get to land, they're so destructive, because they're moving really slow in a distance wise, but they're spinning at, upwards of 200 miles an hour. It's crazy, guys. All right. Some of them are from 300 miles wide to 600 miles wide. Guys, these things are just, if you have the luxury to live far away from the equator, you probably never even experience one of these things, but just trust me and believe me. You never really want to experience one of these things, guys. But all right, let's go ahead and jump into this movie, guys. Sorry for the long-winded introduction. I just wanted to give some of the backstory on kind of what a hurricane is, guys.
According to legend, when Kublai Khan's army set sail to conquer Japan, a powerful typhoon, a Pacific tropical cyclone, arrived without warning, destroying Khan's fleet and saving Japan. When the Mongols returned a few years later with an even bigger army, another typhoon showed up and turned the invading fleet into driftwood. Thinking their emperor had summoned the storms to rescue them, the Japanese named these typhoons Divine Wind, or Kamikaze. Native cultures in the Caribbean and Central America, like the Taino and Maya, told stories of Huracan, a god who brought wind and storms. And their ancient artifacts tell us that they'd deduced these storms' spiral shapes long ago, something Western scientists wouldn't figure out until 1831.
Probably because they're that close to the equator. It affected them, seriously.
Tropical cyclones are called by different names in different oceans, but Atlantic hurricanes like Katrina and Sandy are probably the most famous. These storms are some of the nastiest monsters that Earth's game makers throw our way. A fully formed hurricane can reach more than 100 miles across. Walls of clouds and ice can extend up through the entire lower layer of our atmosphere. But how does a storm that big even happen? The basic ingredients for a hurricane are pretty simple: heat and wind. The wind is easy. Wherever we find low air pressure, air wants to move from the outside in to fill that low pressure. This is what creates a hurricane's super strong winds. But it doesn't explain why they spin. A hurricane's winds want to move in a straight line, but their path is deflected thanks to the Coriolis effect. If Earth wasn't spinning, hurricanes wouldn't either. 100-mile-per-hour wind.
Yeah, but that's not a good example, bro. It is. Listen, no. It's a great example. Absolutely. Without the spinning of the earth, there would be no hurricanes, but there would also be no us, guys. And everything that we built, guys, if the earth stopped spinning for 1 second, guys, we would be dead. Okay, we don't live. We don't make it past that, bro. We don't. Unfortunately, we don't make it. All of the ocean's waters will instantly rush towards the north and south. They will literally leave the equator. The Earth will turn into a perfect circle, right? Because this is kind of what we are, a perfect circle. But we're spinning so fast that we're kind of turning into like the weird shape. But as soon as the Earth stops spinning, yeah, great. No more hurricanes. Congratulations. I love it. But we're all gone, bro. Listen, everything's flooded. Every single thing. What's keeping us alive is spinning. So if we can just deal with hurricanes rather than all of the Earth's water rushing to the poles, that'll be amazing, I would think, right?
And blowing north near the equator is also moving east along with the direction of Earth's rotation. Because Earth is basically a sphere, the closer we get to the poles, the slower the rotation. So as that wind moves north, the atmosphere and the Earth below it aren't spinning as fast, and the sideways motion of the wind outruns Earth's rotation, pushing it east. The same thing happens for the winds on the other side, except they're moving slower, so they get pulled to the west. This is why cyclones spin clockwise in the southern hemisphere and counterclockwise in the northern hemisphere, or anti-clockwise, or whatever. It's also why hurricanes can't form too close to the equator. There isn't enough difference in rotation at low latitudes to start them spinning.
It's about 150 miles from the perfect equator.
Moving in closer to the eye, hurricane winds increase in speed because of angular momentum, just like how a figure skater spins faster when they pull their arms in. Right. The second key ingredient is heat from warm water. A hurricane works a lot like an engine. Not the engine in your car, but an ideal engine.
Guys, I did not know that they spun different directions based off of where they are in the northern or southern hemisphere, guys. I love that.
The one developed by French physicist Nicolas Carnot. First, a piston rises. Now, normally, reducing the pressure cools a gas, but in a Carnot engine, heat is added, so the temperature remains constant even as the pressure drops. But what happens if we turn off the heat and keep dropping the pressure? The gas cools. Next, let's reverse the first step, lowering the piston. Now, we'd expect this higher pressure to heat up the gas. But in our engine, we've got a device to draw heat out so the temperature remains the same. And finally, we keep compressing the piston, but we stop taking away heat, so the temperature rises along with pressure. Now, ideal engines like this don't exist in the real world, but a hurricane is one of the closest things we've got. As winds flow towards the center of a hurricane, we'd expect the low pressure to cool them. But the air is kept warm thanks to massive amounts of water evaporating, and I mean massive.
Right.
An average hurricane can carry more than 100 billion pounds of water. So how does evaporation keep wind warm? Well, changing water from liquid to vapor to rip those molecules apart and let them fly free takes energy. This is why you feel cool when you get out of the pool. It's what happens to a bowl of soup that's left out too long. Evaporating water takes heat with it. And that heat is stored in the wind, so the temperature stays the same even as the pressure goes down. It's just like that first step of our ideal engine. Then, as the air rises, our heat source is gone, so water vapor condenses into liquid again, releasing its stored heat into the atmosphere. The temperature's actually higher on top of a hurricane, thanks just to the heat released by condensing water vapor. High up, the air releases radiation into space as it flows out and down, just like step 3. And finally, that air sinks back to Earth, compressing and getting warmer, and the hurricane engine is ready for another cycle. This feedback loop turns hurricanes into self-sufficient engines of destruction. A typical tropical cyclone consumes the same amount of power as the entire United States. As long as there's enough warm water, it keeps feeding itself, getting larger and larger until, well,
it hits land.
Is there a limit to how powerful a hurricane can be?
Yeah, once it hits land. Because once it hits land, it no longer really has an energy source, right? So, it starts to dissipate over land. Unfortunately, the one that's going on right now in the Gulf of Mexico, coming from the Gulf of Mexico, it's going to hit land, slow down, right? It's going to slow down, then by the time it hits the Atlantic, it's going to be weak. It's going to hit the water again and just gain all of its strength back again. Then hit Florida again from the east. That's what's going to happen, bro. Like, that's crazy, bro. But that's a testament to like how much control we really do not have on this planet, bro.
Size and rainfall are the biggest predictors for how bad a storm will be, but hurricane intensity is rated by wind speed. Category 1 are the weakest, while anything over 157 miles per hour is lumped in category.
Hey. 74 isn't a hurricane. 75.
Category 5. Using equations for Carnot's ideal engine and data about Earth's climate, scientists say 190 miles per hour should be the maximum theoretical wind speed. But after Typhoon Haiyan hit 195 in 2013, does that mean it's time to add a Category 6?
Yeah, we may have to.
Let's get real. After a certain wind speed, all
doesn't even matter,
pretty much looks the same. So
right.
It really doesn't make sense to add another category of bad. But it gives us something to think about. As Earth's climate warms, we're putting more heat, more fuel into these engines of destruction.
Right.
And it's another reason to take our foot off the gas pedal.
Hey, I'm not giving up my V8, bro. We had this discussion.
Stay curious.
All right, guys, listen. If we continue to rising the temperature, he's not lying, bro. If the temperature continues to go up as high as it's been going up, the ocean water is going to get higher and higher in terms of temperature, right? Then that in return is going to heat the air that's floating above the water higher and higher and higher. And that's just going to, oh man, I didn't think of that. Yeah, we're going to be fueling these hurricanes in a way that are absolutely scary. Yeah, we're going to have to come up to it with a Category 6 or Category 7. Listen, 50 years from now, we're going to be looking at Category 10 hurricanes, guys, at this pace. I know it, bro. Not happy for it, obviously. I'm still not giving up my V8. That's not happening, right? But I get it. But all right, listen, you guys all have an absolutely amazing day. Enjoy your day thoroughly.